We just got off 2 hours of an amazing AEW Dynamite. MJF and Rush had a phenomenal world title matchup, and he has so many contenders gunning for him. We also saw the return of Mercedes Moné in the Owen Hart tournament, which was an awesome moment. And we have now officially one half of the finals for the men's Owen Hart tournament set with Will Ospreay's victory over Mark Davis. We're going to be talking about all that and more right now with the All Elite Dirt Sheet.
This is All Elite Dirt Sheet. Hey! 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 Hey!
What is up? Welcome to the All Elite Dirt Sheet, your AEW Dynamite post show. I'm your host, Mike Dinero. I'm here running solo today. We'll be joined back with my co-host, Tim King, next week. Shout out to Tim King. We love you, homie. Thank you so much for everybody who's tuning in. We appreciate you. There was such an awesome atmosphere in the arena tonight for AEW, and I can't wait to talk about AEW Dynamite. But first, I got to give a big shout out to all my fans, all our fans here on the All Elite Dirt Sheet, everyone who's been supporting the new YouTube page. We truly appreciate you, man. The views have been up, the subscribers been up, the likes been up, and we are so grateful. So shout out to everybody who subscribed to the the All Elite Dirt Sheet YouTube page. And if you haven't already, then make sure you hit that subscribe button, make sure you hit that like button. We have post shows, we have so many cool things coming to this channel. Besides post shows, we have fantasy drafts. We have top fives. We're going to have prediction shows. We're going to have pre-shows, post-shows, and everything in between. If you love AEW and you want a space that is strictly dedicated to AEW, make sure you hit that subscribe button right here on the All Elite Dirt Sheet. But we got to talk about this AEW Dynamite, man. I said it last week. This Dynamite looked like it was a pay-per-view card, and it delivered like a pay-per-view card because there was so much that went down on this show, so much to talk about, so many newsworthy things, so many things that is taking AEW and really setting the table not only for Forbidden Door but for the weeks to come. We have a lot of big news to talk about, so let's get right into it right now. AEW Dynamite was live from Virginia, the home of Hangman Adam Page. And I always loved when Hangman Adam Page came home to Virginia. So this show was missing Hangman. And I got to say, man, I can't wait to see what happens when Hangman comes back. But this show starts out with footage from earlier in the day. We hear from Rush, who's backstage with Renee Paquette, talking about his upcoming world title matchup against MJF. He says that he needs to do this tonight for his family. He's doing this for his pride. He's doing this for his people. And he is doing this because after 3 years, after beating everybody else on the roster, he is finally getting his AEW World title shot, and he's going to win and take the title from MJF tonight. He goes for his catchphrase, you mess with the bull, you get the horns. But in the middle of it, he's interrupted by MJF. MJF interrupts him, and he says, go ahead, finish your catchphrase. Because if you're the bull, then I'm the matador, bitch. And then he slaps the taste out of Rush's mouth, which was a crazy pull apart. I thought this was insane. We then get announced that this is going to be the opening matchup on the night. It is going to be a no count out matchup between Rush and MJF for the AEW World Championship. And we hear from Rush again right before the matchup starts. And Rush says, he's about to go take the title from MJF. And out of nowhere, we have Andrade there. And he tells Rush, you got to do this for your pride. You got to do this for your family. You got to do this for your people to show the wrestling world that people like us, our people, deserve to be the world champion. He goes to Rush. He says, I can't wait to see you take that title from MJF. I love Andrade's involvement with this because there's a lot of history with Andrade and Rush. Matchup is up first. Opening contest is not the first time we've seen the world champion in the opening contest. There have been times where they put the title in the opening matchup and it's like, all right, well, the main event is a little lackluster. So the matchup that should have ended the show is the world championship matchup. This is not one of those times. The main event was a banger. We're going to talk about that when we get there. But the opening contest is a no count out matchup for the AEW World Champion, Rush versus MJF. Rush comes out. He gets a big pop. MJF comes out and he's dressed up like a manador. Man, I love MJF. MJF is dressed up like a manador because if Roosh is the bull, then MJF is going to be the manador that tames the bull. This was a hell of a matchup. Right off the bat, they just start going at each other. Heavy blows to each other. MJF tries to infuriate Roosh. He spits in Roosh's face. And this pisses Roosh off. Roosh takes out MJF to the outside. He hits a crazy tope. Then he goes for the horns on the outside. MJF ducks. He takes out Roosh with a big kick. Then MJF goes to run and hit whatever he was going for on Roosh. Roosh reverses, hits a big back body splash onto MJF through the timekeeper's table. Roosh got a good pop when he came out, but MJF got a bigger pop. And I got to say, in the middle of this matchup, this crowd really started to turn and was all for Roosh. And that was a testament to how good of a heel work that MJF was doing, but how good Roosh was doing in this matchup. This matchup was just insanely physical. There's a part of the matchup where Roosh takes off the turnbuckle. It backfires on him. Behind the referee's back, MJF uses that against Roosh and hits Roosh on the exposed turnbuckle. Roosh is bleeding a lot here. To the outside, Roosh goes for the horns onto MJF and misses and takes out a barricade, which leads to MJF hitting a pile driver on the exposed concrete and the broken barricade, which is a nasty, nasty bump, a nasty spot. So many crazy bumps in this, so much intense action in this matchup. At one point, Roosh hit a straight jacket pile driver onto the apron. Just nasty, nasty bump. Hard hitting, intense. In the end, though, MJF retains his AEW World Champion by tapping out Roosh. Well, not tapping out. Roosh passes out in the LeBell Lock. If you go all the way back to MJF's first title run, one of his biggest feuds was against Bryan Danielson, who is known for using the LeBell Lock, the Yes Lock, whatever you want to call it. MJF brings that out here, and he makes Roosh pass out. Roosh is defiant. Roosh, before he passes out, he throws up the middle finger to MJF, but then he passes out. MJF is still your AEW World Champion. Really good matchup. Amazing matchup to start off the show. Right after the matchup, though, MJF is not done taking, out his frustrations on Roosh. He's not done. He wants to continue to take the beating to Roosh. He grabs the world title. He goes to hit Roosh, and then out comes Mark Briscoe. And right away, Mark Briscoe eats a low blow for his troubles. MJF goes to hit Mark Briscoe with the world title, and then out comes the whole conglomeration who stops the attack on Mark Briscoe. MJF runs off. We then are gifted with an amazing promo by Mark Briscoe. I got to say, I've been watching Mark Briscoe since 2002. I've been watching this man since he was 17 years old and was too young to wrestle on Ring of Honor shows in New York and in Philly. So they had to wait until he was in Boston, where I think it was a little lenient. And he had his first match with Jay Briscoe in ROH in Boston when he was 17 years old. I've been a fan of this man since then. I got to say, tonight's promo by Mark Briscoe might be the absolute best promo that he's ever cut. He talks about back in 2023, June 17th, 2023, his brother lost his life. Jay Briscoe, not only his brother, but his partner for over 20 years. The legendary Briscoe brothers. His brother loses his life. And just a few days later is Jay Briscoe's birthday. And instead of celebrating his birthday with him, Jay Briscoe wasn't there, but Mark Briscoe was making his debut for AEW. And he said when his brother passed away, he had such rage in his heart, such anger in his heart. And it was eating at him. It was tearing him apart. But then when he got back in the ring after losing his brother, when he started to wrestle in AEW, when he met people like the fellow stablemates in the conglomeration, he finally felt at peace. He finally felt like he was back to normal. He finally felt joyful again in wrestling. But then came MJF. And MJF was spewing a lot of bullshit. And it brought back that rage in Mark Briscoe. It brought back that anger in Mark Briscoe. And when they finally faced off one-on-one, Mark Briscoe beat MJF in that tables and tax match last year. And it was a big, big moment for Mark Briscoe. He then says MJF goes away. Mark Briscoe is back to having that fun again. He's feeling that joy. He's feeling that love me fix this. So sorry, y'all. So then he says MJF pops back up, but this time when MJF popped back up, he continued to spew that venom. He continued to spew that hatred that brought back that rage in Mark Briscoe. There we go. So sorry for that. So when MJF came back, he continued to spew that hatred, that rage, and it brought back that rage in Mark Briscoe. So Mark Briscoe wants to once again shut MJF up. But this time, instead of just shutting him up, this time MJF has something that Mark Briscoe wants, and that is the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. He said, ever since MJF been back, it feels like he has all these demons on him. All these demons on him. But he has a tattoo that says the Son of God. He is a child of God. And he said how fitting that MJF is the devil. And if you ever read the good book, the devil loses to God. Just like MJF will lose that world title to Mark Briscoe. This was an amazing, amazing, amazing promo. For everybody who thinks that Mark Briscoe is too silly or too, comical. For anybody who hates Mark Briscoe's whatever, right? This was an amazing promo, and I absolutely love this. I absolutely love this, and it was a phenomenal, phenomenal promo from Mark Briscoe. Really setting the table for when Mark Briscoe eventually does go one-on-one with MJF. I could see that being at Fight for the Fallen, which is coming up. I don't see that happening at Forbidden Door. I do still think that we're going to get Andrade. We're going to talk about Andrade, but this was an absolute amazing promo. The best promo that Mark Briscoe ever cut. 100%. 100%. This leads to a matchup. Next up, it was Mark Briscoe versus Lio Rush, who I got to say, I don't know why. I don't know what it is, but Lio Rush has been growing on me. Lio Rush has been really just a breath of fresh air on this television show. He's such a different type of gimmick, and it's just been growing on me. I loved his entrance here because you still had the conglomeration outside. When Lio Rush was walking through, the conglomeration just like froze, looked fearful. And then every time Lio Rush looked at them, they froze. And then he would look away and they would start walking again. The concept of that was from Mario. I don't know if you guys know, but like those like big giant ghosts, when you look at them, like they freeze. And then when you don't look at them, they start moving again. So I can see they got the concept from that. But really good matchup with Mark Briscoe and Lio Rush. Highly entertaining. I thought that this was a really good matchup. Next up on the show, well, by the way, Mark Briscoe won the matchup, and it looks like we are going to be heading for Mark Briscoe and MJF. Next up on the show, we see a video package of tonight's TNT title matchup between Speedball Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight. Should be a very fun matchup. I'm looking forward to that. And then we see Tekla and the Sisters of Sin in the crowd, and Tekla just cuts the type of promo that Tekla cuts. I love these promos. Like, I don't even know how you would explain Tekla's character. The way I say it is Tekla is a European ghetto badass. I mean, how would you explain Tekla's character? This was a really good promo. She says that when she was in Stardom, she was known as the Idol Killer because she hated all the kawaii girls. She hated all these cutesy princess-looking wrestlers, and she was there to take them all out. And when she took them all out, she was then fired from Japan. But now Stardom is here. They're going to be taking place at Forbidden Door. And she promises if she sees anybody from Stardom, she's going to take them out. She then says that this is not her waging war on Stardom. This is her waging death to Stardom. She says, but it's not just her. We have a mission as the Triangle of Madness and the Sisters of Sin, because Sky Blue is going to go all the way and win the Owen Hart Women's Tournament. Julia Hart is going to win the Survival of the Fittest six-way and win the vacated TBS champion. And she and Tekla will bring death to Stardom at Forbidden Door. She then climbs a ladder on the entranceway and spits on the Stardom logo that was on the video screen. I'm very curious to see where they go with this and who Tekla will be facing at Forbidden Door from Stardom. I mean, some of their biggest stars are within this tournament. I could see if maybe Saray loses, maybe she faces Tekla at the Forbidden Door, but why would she be given a title shot if she loses to Sky Blue? I don't know. It's going to be very interesting who from Stardom is going to step up against the AEW Women's Champion Tekla to go against her at Forbidden Door. It's going to be very interesting because Tekla wants to bring death to the entire company of Stardom. She almost did when she attacked the owner of Stardom, and she's going to continue that hatred for Stardom all the way through Forbidden Door. We then see Will Ospreay training with the Death Riders, and I love this because you had Daniel Garcia, who was trying to pep talk Will Ospreay, and out of nowhere, Jon Moxley comes. He's like, "What are you doing? Shut up!" And Daniel Garcia's, "My bad, my bad." I love this promo by Jon Moxley. He tells Will Ospreay that Mark Davis is just one of these monster movie characters in your head, and he is just that, just in your head. He is not who he says he is. You are better than him. The only reason why you lost to him was because you had that bad neck. You were dropped on your neck and you could not continue. This is not the same man facing Mark Davis tonight in the main event. This man, this new Will Ospreay, has been built up as a destroyer, as a killer, as an assassin, and he is going to take out Mark Davis tonight. He then said he hates this gang warfare bullshit that's been going on in AEW. Everybody has a faction. Everybody has a gang that they're rolling with. He says, don't worry about the Don Callis family. Because tonight, if the Don Callis family gets involved, the Death Riders would take care of them. He also said, I'm not one to blow smoke up anyone's ass. But then he tells Will Ospreay, you're starting to look like him again. And I love that. I love that. I love that he told Will Ospreay that he's starting to look like the man who could take this company to the next level as their world champion. I cannot wait for Will Ospreay and Mark Davis tonight. We're going to talk about all that. Dude, a phenomenal matchup. I can't wait to get to that. But first, we got to talk about Andrade El Idolo. We saw him earlier giving a pep talk to Rush. He is here to have a enhancement matchup against a jobber who I didn't catch their name. Dude, this lasted a few seconds. The picture that Andrade took with the female ringside took longer than the matchup that Andrade had here. Andrade, he hit a wicked back elbow that looked like he knocked his jobber's head clean off his shoulders. Then he hit the DM 1, 2, 3 victory. He then gets on the mic and he says, MJF, you have something that he wants, and that is the world title. He says, what makes you think that you could beat a real Latino man as himself? How you know? How you know? You have the world title, and I want it. And then out of nowhere, out comes Don Callis along with Jake Doyle, who made his return last week. And Don Callis says that, Andrade, you did amazing, but tonight he is here to introduce the newest member of the Don Callis family. Before I get to that, we're not going to talk about the part where, as he's introducing the newest member of the Don Callis family, Don Callis' dentures fell out. But he introduces the newest member of the Don Callis family, something that was alluded to last week, and that is the Jet Kevin Knight, the TNT World Champion, is the newest member of the Don Callis family. And I got to say, I know the Don Callis family has a shit ton of people. You have half the roster on the Don Callis family. But I got to say, I like this. I like this. I don't think that Don Callis needs to be the mouthpiece of Kevin Knight. I think that Kevin Knight is really coming to his own with this heel character, and he's going to be a good promo guy. But I like the association. I like the fact that Don Callis is bringing up all these young studs. Mark Davis, young as hell. Kyle Fletcher, young as hell. Kevin Knight, young as hell. This is the future of AEW, and they're all in one stable, and it is awesome, awesome, awesome. This then leads to the matchup between Speedball Mike Bailey and the Jet Kevin Knight for the TNT Championship. This was another matchup that was a whole lot of fun, a lot of crazy action. These two look picture perfect in this ring with each other. They were mirroring each other. They were, everything had a counter. It was awesome interactions between Speedball and Kevin Knight. Speedball was hitting some very innovative kicks here that looked like he was knocking Kevin Knight's head right off his shoulders. At one point, Kevin Knight goes for, I guess, a leapfrog, and Speedball hits him with a roundhouse kick, or a spinning back heel kick, I should say. Very, very nasty. Speedball hit a nasty tornado to the outside. Kevin Knight hit a diving clothesline to the outside where he got mad height. It was insane. In the end, after an amazing matchup, fury of offense from Speedball. He goes for the shooting star. He misses it. Then Kevin Knight gets the upper hand. Jake Doyle jumps onto the ring apron, distracting the referee. At this point, you had Speedball and Kevin Knight on the top rope. Don Callis then trips up Speedball Mike Bailey, allowing for Kevin Knight to hit a wicked top rope spine buster that looked like he just absolutely killed Speedball Mike Bailey. A nasty, nasty bump there, which then led to, I guess this is his new finisher besides the UFO splash. Kevin Knight hits a ripcord Uranagi to Speedball for the victory. 1, 2, 3. Still your TNT champion, the Jet Kevin Knight. Really, really, really amazing matchup. Afterwards, Don Callis and Kevin Knight gets on the mic. Kevin Knight says that he finally got rid of the dead weight that is Speedball Mike Bailey. The dead weight that's been on him and just holding him down since his debut in AEW. He says he is now picked up and linked up with Dom Perignon. He linked up with Don Callis. He then says, but let's get it straight. He's only with Don Callis for Don Callis to take him to the very top so he could become Jet 2 belts. And he says, MJF, he's gunning for that world title. Really good promo. I love this association with Kevin Knight and Kevin Knight and Don Callis. I cannot wait to see matches that involve Kevin Knight teaming up with Fletcher. Dude, imagine Kevin Knight and Fletcher versus Speedball and Takeshita. This is an absolute amazing, amazing, amazing young talented roster that they are building to the future, and I cannot wait. Backstage, we hear from the Dogs. The Dogs who are still making fun of Cope and Cage, who are not here tonight. They said that they took over the 5-minute pose, a 5-second pose. They have the 5-second brews. They have beers in their hand. And they had the 5-second gazoos, making fun of Edge and Christian back in the day with the gazoos. And then they're interrupted by the Young Bucks. Nick Jackson says, who let the dogs out? Who? And Matt Jackson says, look, you guys want to be the number one contenders for the tag team titles, but how are you guys the number one contenders for the tag team titles when the Young Bucks, beat the Dogs at Double or Nothing in the Stadium Stampede? You got David Finlay, who Matt Jackson says is the worst leader of the Bullet Club. And then you have Clark Connors, who is a Temu Hangman Adam Page. They said, if you want to be the number one contenders, then why don't you face them tonight? And we'll crown new number one contenders, either the Young Bucks or the Dogs. And the Dogs just say, not going to happen tonight. And they just walk away. And the Young Bucks are like shrugging it off like, all right, whatever. I cannot wait for these two teams to go one-on-one or 2-on-2, I should say. Maybe next week should be good, but I like the fact that this tag team roster looks strong. It looks healthy. And I can't wait to see these new tag teams that they're bringing in. This tag team roster right now is really, really good. The Dogs versus the Young Bucks are going to slap. And then when we eventually do, maybe at Forbidden Door, get to Cope and Cage versus the Dogs, that's going to be a hell of a matchup as well. We then see Renee Paquette backstage with MJF, who's in some type of recovery tub. I thought that was a funny visual. He still has his gear on, too. He has the wrist tape. He has his trunks on, but he's in this tub of water. And Renee says that, what do you think of Mark Briscoe gunning for you and for that world title? And MJF says, listen, this title is for top guys. I told Mark Briscoe last week he's not getting the point. This title is for top guys, and Mark Briscoe will never be a top guy. He says that his word is the law in AEW. There is nobody who could have anything to say that trumps what MJF says and his decision, and that is that he is not going to give Mark Briscoe a world title shot. And he doesn't want Mark Briscoe to continue asking. Just stop asking. You're not going to get it. And he gets annoyed and he says, now go. Now go. I don't know if this is going to happen at Forbidden Door. Like I said, I think it may happen at the Fight for the Fallen show, which should be coming up in a couple weeks. But right now, there's a lot of attention being Mark Briscoe and MJF for that world title. And I am excited to see that matchup when it does happen. I wasn't so excited last week. I was kind of like, all right, there's a lot of other contenders. I'm a huge fan of Mark Briscoe, but I'm not so sold on Mark Briscoe eventually. It seems predictable. I don't think Mark Briscoe's going to take the title from MJF. So that's why it was like, let's give this shot to other people. But after tonight's promo, like I said, one of the best promos from Mark Briscoe ever, I could see this being a phenomenal matchup. One was probably a lot of emotion in the story being told in the ring. So when that matchup does happen, I'm excited. They sold me tonight on a possible Mark Briscoe versus MJF matchup. Now let's talk about what a lot of people are going to be talking about. I'm sure it's controversial. I'm sure there's a lot of people pissed off about this. I'm not one of them. It didn't seem like Virginia was pissed off about this. But let's talk about the women's Owen Hart quarterfinal matchup. Dude, Alex Windsor versus the Wild Card. Going into this, Tim and I have been saying it's probably going to be Mercedes. But we also said, what if it's Camille? What if it's Harley Cameron? What if it's, this one? What if it's that one? I even brought up last week, what if it's Chris Statlander? We didn't, what's next for Chris Statlander after she beat Sheeta? What if Chris Statlander enters into this tournament as the wild card and we get Statlander? But the easy prediction would be that it was going to be Mercedes Moné. And that's exactly what we got here. We got the return of Mercedes Moné. The CEO is back in AEW, and she is in this matchup in the Owen Hart quarterfinals. She actually was the winner of the Owen Hart tournament last year. She's now looking to, I guess, repeat that same victory and win the whole tournament again. Before I get into the matchup, I just want to say, this women's roster, we've been very vocal about this women's roster feeling like there's something missing right now, feeling like there's a lack of direction, and feeling like there's a lack of star power. I love everyone that they have. They're such great wrestlers. Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné both being gone at the same time felt like there's a big hole in the women's division. Whether you like her or hate her, Mercedes Moné is a huge star, and she is going to always be someone that is talked about, someone that is pushed, and someone that is going to bring eyes to the product. She's a big star, not only in wrestling, but outside of wrestling. She has that pop culture pull. And she was pushed very heavily last year. So she was already, she's already been to the top of the mountain, and a lot of eyes are going to be on the product for Mercedes Moné. You cannot deny the fact that Mercedes Moné is one of the best women wrestlers and stars of our generation. When you bring up the Charlottes, when you bring up the Becky Lynches, when you bring up the Baileys, you got to bring up the Mercedes Moné. She was a part of that class. The 4 horsewomen, right? She was a part of that class. I do not know why there is such hate for Mercedes, especially in a time period right now where the AEW women's roster needs that star power. I believe that Mercedes is going to bring that star power. I know there was this whole talk about her winning too much, her winning everything that she had put in front of her last year, her having possible creative control. Dude, what Mercedes did when she became Mercedes 10 belts or whatever, when she was Ultimo Mercedes, what she did, I believe, in my opinion, I'm not trying to debate this. In my opinion, I believe Mercedes did something very generous, something that she didn't need to do. Someone of her star power did not need to do. And that was go to these indies, go to other promotions, and put their promotions title on TV, getting people to talk about those promotions on television. On primetime television, we had independent promotion titles showcased because of Mercedes. If you ask me, I feel like that is a generous thing to do that she did not have to do. Yes, she was walking around with 13 titles, but still, she was giving a showcase to promotions on national TV because of her star power, taking that promotion to the next level, taking the indie wrestlers that she was wrestling for those titles and then eventually lost those titles to the next level. She wasn't holding anybody back. She was putting companies on her back. I am a fan of Mercedes, and I think that this company needed her back, especially in the time period where you don't have the biggest star in the women's roster, Toni Storm, available. You needed a star like Mercedes back. I feel like the 3, maybe 4 biggest stars on that women's roster is Toni Storm, Mercedes Moné, Willow Nightingale, and Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander's there. She's going to be probably wrestling for the TBS title in the Survival of the Fittest tournament. Willow's injured. Toni Storm is injured. She's off of TV. We needed Mercedes there. You have to. You saw that there was such a lack of direction in that women's world title picture without Toni, without Mercedes. They were just throwing shit at the wall and seeing if it would fucking stick to lead to these pay-per-view matches that were good, but also felt like, why are we doing this? Why are we breaking up the Brawling Birds just to have, singles runs, just to put them back together, possibly for All In? Why is Jamie Hayter getting multiple shots at the title? Why is Sheeta getting a shot at the title? Why? It felt like nothing made sense, right? Ever since Toni went down, you need that star power. Bringing in someone back like Mercedes Moné is not going to do nothing bad for your promotion. It's going to only elevate that women's roster. So I am very glad that Mercedes Moné is back. I already see people saying, oh, look at, she came back and she beat Alex Windsor. I didn't see Alex Windsor winning this tournament to begin with. I didn't see Alex Windsor even going on to the semifinals. If it was Willow, I could have saw Willow winning this matchup. If it was Willow, knowing the brackets, Willow better have won that matchup. Alex Windsor is going to be fine. It does not hurt Alex to lose to Mercedes Moné. Alex is going to be fine. She's probably going to be in a title matchup at All In. She's probably going to be teaming up with Jamie Hayter, the Brawling Birds, against Divine Dominion at All In. She's going to be fine. It's not going to hurt Alex Windsor to lose to Mercedes Moné. Mercedes winning this is not only elevating this tournament because she's the biggest star in the tournament, and this tournament lacked star power, but Alex Windsor is going to be fine. I don't see why there's such a, oh man, here she comes again. She's taking everybody out, blah, blah, blah. Alex Windsor is going to be fine. Mercedes Moné was needed for this roster, and I'm glad that she's back. I'm glad that she won, and I could see a rematch of what we saw last year in the finals, Mercedes Moné versus Athena, and if we get that, that's going to be a whole lot of fun. We then hear from Tommaso Ciampa backstage. Tommaso Ciampa says that Jericho came back, he feuded with Ricochet, he finally gets past Ricochet in the demand, and then boom, reality hit. And that reality was when Jericho was gone and away. Tommaso Ciampa, he debuted for this roster. Tommaso Ciampa is here in AEW. And Jericho, he's a patient man. Ciampa's a patient man. So Jericho, go home, lick your wounds, stay away. But just know whenever you come back, Ciampa says, he's going to be right there to take him out. I think that this whole feud, I said it last week, this whole feud between Jericho and Ciampa is going to elevate Ciampa. It's going to give Jericho something fun to do because I think that we all were over the Ricochet Jericho shit. I think Ciampa versus Jericho sounds like a fun matchup, and I am very excited to see what comes out of this feud because if this means that Ciampa is going to be put back in that main event scene, I am all for that. But speaking of the main event, let's talk about the men's Owen Hart semifinal matchup in the main event. Will Ospreay versus Mark Davis. This is the rematch up from about a month ago where Mark Davis beat Will Ospreay by doctor stoppage after hitting the pile driver onto the ring apron. Will Ospreay's been built back up. He's been training with the Death Riders for this moment to avenge this loss. This was a phenomenal matchup. Like I said, when you have the world title in the opening matchup, the main event better deliver. It better deliver, or it's going to feel like this whole show's pacing and timing and everything was off. We've seen it. I believe it was about a month ago. It was about a month and a half ago. MJF was in he was in the opening matchup, I think against Kevin Knight. And the main event did not really live up to the hype. So it was like, why wasn't MJF's title matchup in the main event? Why would you put the title match in the opening matchup, but then the main event doesn't deliver? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. But then when you have a show like this, where you have a phenomenal matchup in the opening matchup for that world title, like you had with Roosh and MJF, and then you have an absolute epic matchup between Will Ospreay and Mark Davis, that's when it all makes sense, right? That's when it's like, all right, you start the show out hot, you end the show hot, there's a lot of good shit in between. This feels like a complete show. So let's talk about this matchup, because this matchup was fucking phenomenal. This was phenomenal. That crowd was 100% behind Will Ospreay. The Ospreay chants, the Ospreay, 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 Ospreay. Dude, that crowd was loving Will Ospreay. Probably the best Will Ospreay reaction besides his return. The best Will Ospreay reaction that we've seen from that crowd since his return. This was just insane. Crazy, crazy, crazy moves. At one point, Will Ospreay hits the phenomenal forearm early on. Mark Davis, who looks like an absolute unit out there, hits the X-Plex onto Will Ospreay, onto the announce table, which looks sick. Davis was hitting so many hard moves. He had Will Ospreay sitting on the chair. He goes running on the outside and just gives a huge forearm to Will Ospreay that looks like he knocked his head off. Just sick. I said that a couple times tonight. There was a lot of heads getting knocked off on this show. A lot of hard-hitting action. Inside the ring, Will Ospreay, after, going back and forth with Davis, a lot of back and forth action, he hits a Styles Clash onto Mark Davis for a 2 count. There's a referee bump, and this is where all hell broke loose. You had the Don Callis family, as predicted, come out to help Mark Davis win this matchup. They attack Will Ospreay, which leads to the Death Riders coming out and attacking the Don Callis family. Led to a lot of fun, cool things that happened with that. Brian Cage was just taking everybody out. He takes out big Claudio Castagnoli. He takes out Pac. He takes out Wheeler Yuta. Then you have Will Ospreay take out Brian Cage. You had Jake Doyle come out. He took out a bunch of people. Then the referee gets back into the ring. Will Ospreay hits the Os Cutter. 1-2. Jake Doyle pulls out the referee, which leads to Jake Doyle coming in and taking out Ospreay. Marina Shafir jumps on Jake Doyle's neck, and Jake Doyle just throws her over, slamming her. And it looks like he was going to try to hit Marina again, which led to Jon Moxley coming in. Moxley takes Jake Doyle out with the paradigm shift. Pac then, he does a huge moonsault to the outside, taking out all the Death Riders, all the Don Callis family. Absolute pandemonium, absolute craziness. The type of craziness that AEW is known for, especially in their main events, especially lately. The crowd is going absolute ape shit. In the end, after all that, you have Will Ospreay. He goes for the Stormbreaker, and then Kyle Fletcher, of all people, takes out Will Ospreay, bringing back that feud. Kyle Fletcher still aligned with the Don Callis family, showing that he's stronger with Don Callis more than ever. Takes out Will Ospreay, which leads to Konosuke Takeshita coming out, taking out Kyle Fletcher. The crowd's still going absolute ape shit. But during all this, there was a screwdriver put in the ring. Mark Davis grabs the screwdriver, goes to stab Will Ospreay with the screwdriver, and Will Ospreay hits the hidden blade to the arm, knocking the screwdriver out his arm, and then hits another wicked hidden blade, and then goes with he goes for the Stormbreaker, which then Mark Davis counters. He hits him with a huge pile driver for the 2 count. Now, this was such a significant move because that was the same pile driver that took out Will Ospreay, the same pile driver that the referee had to stop the matchup in their last match. So it definitely was a story being told in here. He kicks out of the pile driver. Will Ospreay is 100%. He is back to being that guy, and that neck is strong. Then after that, Mark Davis goes for another pile driver. Will Ospreay reverses it into the arm bar, and Mark Davis taps out. Holy shit, what a matchup. In the end, Will Ospreay taps out Mark Davis, and he is now going to the finals of the Owen Hart tournament. This was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I don't know how you could have anything better in the main event. I love that MJF versus Rush match. This was a true main event here. That MJF Rush match was phenomenal. This was how you end the show, though. You get the people talking. You have crazy pandemonium. And in the end, you have a big victory. Now we are awaiting the next semifinal matchup. Next week is going to be Brody King and Swerve Strickland. It does still seem like we're going to be getting Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland at Forbidden Door. But, dude, this was a phenomenal, phenomenal matchup. I absolutely love this. Love this 100%. This was an amazing show. So with all that being said, what is the rating that I'm giving this show? Opening matchup. Even before the opening matchup, the opening segment with Rush and MJF. Really building that drama to get to the matchup. That's the opening matchup. Phenomenal. The promo by Mark Briscoe being one of the best Mark Briscoe promos ever. Phenomenal. The return of Mercedes Moné. Phenomenal. The TNT title matchup between Kevin Knight and Speedball Mike Bailey. Phenomenal. The main events being an absolute awesome, dude, I don't even know how you would say it. This was just epic proportions. You had so much story given into that. You had so much craziness. You had just chaos breaking off. And then in the end, Will Ospreay wins, stands tall in front of a red hot crowd in Virginia. Absolutely awesome. Dude, I haven't done this yet. I haven't done this yet since we started the All Elite Dirt Sheet. I have not given a Dynamite a perfect score, but I do not know how much better of a show you could have. The last couple weeks, AEW has been 3 hours. They've been having a 1 hour collision after the 2 hour Dynamite. And last week, I really did enjoy it. I thought that they were able to pace out those 3 hours perfectly. This week, it being 2 hours felt like they had nonstop action the whole time. It felt like if you blink, you're going to miss something. This was a card of epic proportions. You had it feeling like a pay-per-view all night. You had a lot of implications, a lot of title matches, a lot of strong story-driven promos, and just things building up to Forbidden Door, things that were building up to weeks on the show. With all that being said, this has to be a 5 out of 5. I do not know how much better you could get than tonight. Dude, go look back at every single segment. Not one of these segments on this show felt like, dude, everything down to the fucking Tekla promo was great. There was not one thing on this show that I would have done differently. Not one thing on this show that I disliked. Every single thing on this show was awesome. With that being said, 5 out of 5. You cannot get better than that. Dude, I am so excited right now for AEW because they're on such a hot streak. They had amazing showing for the pay-per-view at Double or Nothing. I said it's probably the greatest pay-per-view that they ever put on. Last week, the fallout of Double or Nothing, that 3 hour epic show was amazing. And then tonight, you have just an absolute classic of an episode of Dynamite. Next week, we have a lot of shit going down too. Dude, Brody King versus Swerve Strickland is going to slap, and I cannot wait to... Unfortunately, Brody's probably going to lose. I cannot wait for Swerve Strickland to be in the finals, and then we get this epic build for the next couple weeks of Swerve and Will Ospreay going to Forbidden Door. That being said, that's all I got for you guys tonight. Like I said, I was running solo. I can't wait for Tim King to be back here. My brother TK. Dude, this was awesome. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Shout out to everybody who checked us out. We truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here with the All Elite Dirt Sheet. Because of you is why we do these post shows. Because of you, this is why we have this channel. And because of you is why we love doing what we do. So with that being said, we'll catch you on the next episode of the All Elite Dirt Sheet. Peace out, y'all.